This is The Guide Gals, a modern, wedding-focused podcast by the experts at Here Comes the Guide. I'm Chelsea, a designer and inspired creative who's probably racked up over 11,000 hours on Pinterest and a friend who's going to shoot it to you straight.
And I'm Caroline, a social media manager who's obsessed with dogs as ring bearers and will inevitably cry over your wedding video. We've seen it from all sides. We've been brides, planners, bridesmaids, and have worked with standout brands throughout the industry.
Think of us as an extension of your wedding party and hang out with us as we share the ins, outs, ups, and downs of the road to I Do.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Guide Gals podcast today. As always, we always say we have an exciting episode, but today even more so. We're going to be talking about honeymoon planning and budgeting with HoneyFund.
We are so excited to be joined by Sara Margulis of HoneyFund today. So Sara was inspired to create a business that was a platform where couples are able to fund a honeymoon for their wedding gift instead of traditional wedding gifts that you might receive. So now Sara runs a business that is a registry that makes dream honeymoons happen with the help of contributions from family and friends. So Sara, we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you, ladies, for having me. I'm such a huge fan of Here Comes the Guide. I used it for my own wedding back in 2006. I had a dream wedding on Treasure Island in San Francisco, and I would never have known about that venue if it weren't for Here Comes the Guide. So thank you.
Oh, we love that connection. It's so fun to hear about all the ways that we meet people who have used Here Comes the Guide, and likewise, a lot of people at Here Comes the Guide have used HoneyFund, and we just love those connections. So we're really excited to have you on to talk about honeymoons, especially, at the Guide Gals. We're here to bring planning advice, and we haven't gotten to dive into that subject as much as we wanted to. So this is the perfect time to do it with you. We're going to call you the expert of honeymooning.
Awesome.
Before we jump into more of the episode, I always have to ask, what are we drinking today?
So I have been a huge coffee person pretty much my whole adult life, but I recently gave it up. And I've been drinking tea. So I've been exploring all the teas in the morning. And this morning I had decaf Earl Grey, which was really yummy, with oat milk.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I actually, this past weekend, unintentionally stopped drinking coffee. And I was like, wait, do I stop drinking coffee? Unfortunately, no, I'm drinking coffee today. I have a little pistachio latte, and it's not going anywhere soon.
Love it.
Yeah, I am also never going to give up coffee, but I like tea too. So I had a coffee this morning, but I am drinking like a can of iced tea today. So that's what I have going on. Yeah.
Is that a guayaki?
It is. And I never knew how to say that, but it's like the Blueforia flavor, which I've never had before.
That stuff comes from my hometown where I'm sitting right now in Sebastopol, California. And I know tons of people have worked there, and our yerba mate people here.
Oh my gosh, well, it's written in the stars. I think, yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. More amazing connections. I love it.
So before we chat about how HoneyFund can help to make your honeymoon happen, we need to talk a little bit about the honeymoon planning basics. So starting with defining some of the things around honeymoons, we see so many different styles, and there are truly no rules when it comes to your trip as a couple. So some couples will choose adventure and cultural immersion, while others will opt for relaxation more. So Sara, we'd love to hear your insight on how couples can figure out what honeymoon style is best for them.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked me this, because we are currently working on a project to take our 18 years of honeymoon data, couples' destinations, all the fun things they've done, where couples who live in this state love to travel to this place, all that stuff, and kind of making it available to our couples when they sign up and plan their destination. So I think about this all the time. But I would say that there's a few sources of inspiration you could go for. Obviously travel websites and blogs, your personal bucket list. You guys should each be keeping your own personal bucket list and comparing, right? Do we have destinations in common? Friends and family are so excited to talk to you about travel and where they've been, and you can get inspiration from them, and even some really great insider information from your travel loving friends and family. And then make sure you sign up for newsletters like Travel Zoo and others that have really great sort of custom deals that you could maybe hook onto when it comes time to plan your honeymoon, because they're all very curated, and the writers at Travel Zoo have tons of experience, and they know where is it worth promoting a deal to. So definitely follow some of those things. And then obviously Instagram, Pinterest, there's so much inspiration out there, but I would say make this sort of a fun thing that you're doing in your wedding planning, is just kind of keeping that eye on like, what is our honeymoon? Where, you know, let it kind of like present itself to you, and when you find it, you'll know. It's just like when you fall in love.
I love that. And I love the tidbit about like asking your family and friends, because like truly like the best recommendations I feel like come from that. And even just like having that connection to a family member or a friend, like, oh, like we ate lunch at that same spot that you recommended, and
yes.
super fun.
And how much more exciting for them to give you that thing on your honey fund if you've already talked about it.
Yes, that's so true. All right. And then being in the honeymoon space. So we're sure you see so many different types of trips. Can you tell us what have been the most popular destination and activities that couples are choosing?
Oh boy. Okay. So Hawaii has been our all-time number one top destination for years and years and years and years. And that was all changed after COVID. After COVID, the first sort of big trend we saw was Italy. And I really chalked that up to a couple of things. One, I think couples really just needed to be able to get out and go farther and go somewhere more sensual and more exciting and more flavors and more, you know, just everything, like after being cooped up for so long in COVID. And then this year we're seeing Asia really trending. So Japan is like hot right now. And I think, again, just like, where can we go that's even farther, even more exotic, even more different from our day-to-day life, where we can just really get filled up with like an incredible experience that just like shifts our perspective about the world. And that's what I love, is that our couples are they just love the world. They just want to get out there and explore and open their minds and see things they've never seen and do it together as a way to bond with each other, which is just so inspiring.
Oh, I love that. And I love like that. That's so funny how it changed after COVID, but you're right. It probably does have to have like do with the fact that people were really like, we couldn't go anywhere. Like you couldn't even go like a state over without, you know, it being like really tricky. So that's so cool. So many neat spots you're mentioning too. Okay, so something that Caroline and I talk a lot about when it comes to wedding planning are non-negotiables. So I feel like these are things that definitely come into play when you're planning your honeymoon as well. I know you mentioned like keeping kind of like a list. So what advice do you have for couples as they brainstorm and prioritize their honeymoon desires?
I would just say, like, be really, really honest with yourself and each other. A lot of times, especially during wedding planning, there's so much to coordinate. There's so much to talk about. There's so many decisions to make. And it's easy to kind of just sort of agree and kind of keep things happy and not get into a fight over something that doesn't matter and all that. But when it comes to ultimately like building the life that you want together, starting with your wedding and your honeymoon, you have to be able to be honest and have those tough conversations. So I would just say knowing yourself, knowing what you really want, and then being willing to talk about it openly with your partner, even if it's the complete opposite of what they want, because I promise there's something that will be perfect for both of you, and it's the combining of your two differences that makes something truly unique and special and form the basis of your connection for your whole marriage. So why not start off on the right foot, right? And you know, take a honeymoon that really reflects that unique combination of the two of you.
And that's another thing that Chelsea and I talk about a lot, not just the non-negotiables, but the communication, like how important it is to communicate with each other through the wedding planning process and, of course, the honeymoon planning process too. So that leads to a third point that we talk about a lot, and that is budgeting. So I'm sure that this is a huge part of this and kind of the answer to the question. HoneyFund is the answer to the question that a lot of couples are asking, is like, how are we going to make this happen? So we do want to spend a little bit of time here in the budgeting realm. So kind of my first question are, what are some important factors to consider when creating a honeymoon budget?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I always say for the whole entire wedding budget, it's like, just again, be really, really honest with yourself. Like, how much money are we willing to spend on this? And it's not necessarily how much you have in savings or how much your friends and family are going to pitch in or anything like that. It's like, what would feel good to us when it's all said and done, so that when we wake up on day one of our marriage, we have the right amount of money in the bank to take on our next adventure together. We have, you know, we've paid for everything. There's no debt. You know, like, what's really going to make you feel good? And then plan the best wedding and honeymoon you can with that budget, right? So I'm always a huge fan of like, get real about the money first. So when it comes to the honeymoon, you know, we see our couples typically raise between, you know, $1,500 and $5,000 from their friends and family. And that can all depend on how much you're promoting it to them. Is it your number one registry, or do you have other store registries that you're prioritizing? Are you tacking honeymoon fund type things onto a more traditional registry, or do you have like a bespoke honey fund that's all about your honeymoon? Those are factors that are going to really influence how much you end up receiving for your honeymoon from friends and family. And then beyond that, like how much are you willing to come out of your own pocket with? Let's say you end up with the low end, maybe $500, $1,000, $1,500, and you're planning a $10,000 honeymoon. Like that's not going to, that might not work for your budget. So be realistic. Book something that you can add on to as funds come in that will make it even that much more exciting and once in a lifetime.
And now, are there any common mistakes that you see people making when it comes to the honeymoon budget?
I would say just if you haven't traveled before, there are hidden costs that you have to kind of like learn about. Anytime you're booking a hotel room, for example, there's charges that come when you book, and then there's charges that come when you check out, and the checkout charges can include things like the on-site hotel fees, local taxes that you might not be aware of. Some places have like city level, county level, state level taxes that you might not have been aware of. And then anything you spend on the property for food and drink and things like that will get tacked onto your bill. So just be mindful. There's also, all kinds of like, you can get travel insurance, or you can upgrade your flight, or, there's all kinds of ways that you'll be presented with upsells through the journey. So just either grabbing a travel agent who's done this before or getting to know the process of booking travel would be important when you're first starting out.
Yeah. And there are a lot of hidden costs, and it's hard to know those things when you haven't planned a honeymoon before. And likely, if you're listening to this episode, you haven't planned one before, and you're trying to find all of these ways to plan the best that you can. And so what, I guess, are some tips that you might provide to also sticking to that budget? Like you said, you're going to be presented with up charges or upselling, especially when people find out it's your honeymoon. They're like, oh, well, what about this?
Right.
How do you stick to this budget when it is so fun?
Yeah, it's so fun. So one trend that I'm seeing right now is couples going for the all-inclusive option. And I like that option if you're budget-minded, because it might feel like a lot coming out of pocket up front, but you're not going to have all that stuff tacked on at the end of the day. It's really just one price, maybe some of those resort fees and taxes, but you're not going to see like every time you went to the bar, every time you ate a meal on the property. And then a lot of activities are included as well. And so I really like that option for couples who are like, this is how much we're spending. We know exactly what we can afford, and we're not going to go over that. Yeah. I'm also seeing couples opening like a travel points credit card. So let's say you're a fan of United or Delta, open up their travel credit card, and then you have all the money you're spending on your wedding and everything else leading up to your honeymoon can be earning you points, and then you're kind of helping to cover the cost of your wedding. And then of course having a honey fund is always just a great idea for couples who know that they're going to want to go big and want that little bit of cushion, and want to get their friends and family excited about their trip, which is it's so fun for friends and family. People always say like, why didn't I have honey fund when I got married? So don't worry about like how it's going to seem when you ask people to check out your honey fund. Wedding guests absolutely go bonkers over buying honeymoon gifts.
Yes, I have done it myself, gifted people honeymoon gifts, and it's so fun, especially afterwards when you like see them sharing their pictures like on like social media or whatever. You're like, hey, like I know what they're talking about, and I contributed to that. So it's so exciting to see as a guest. But we'd love to talk a little bit more with you about HoneyFund. So just like we mentioned at the top of the episode, HoneyFund is a registry that makes dream honeymoons happen with the help of contributions from family and friends. So Sarah, we'd love to hear more about the role that HoneyFund plays in helping couples finance their dream honeymoon.
Yeah, so, back in 2005 when I was planning my own wedding, I was like, we had just enough money for the wedding itself, but we had really big dreams and aspirations for our honeymoon. We wanted to go to Fiji, which is like halfway around the planet. It just sounded so exotic and so far from everything and so relaxing, and that was really what we were looking for. So we kind of made a makeshift honey fund, which was just like, all right, we're gonna go to this island. We're gonna need these like little flight hoppers between islands. We're gonna need money for sailing trips and all kinds of stuff. And we had worked with a travel agent to kind of create our itinerary, so we knew like all the fun things we wanted friends and family to contribute to. And they just, I mean, we just put it out there. It was like so rudimentary and so just like DIY. And they just went crazy over it. They gave us more than $5,000 toward our dream trip to Fiji. And we took that trip and it was amazing. It was everything we wanted it to be. But more importantly, they raved about the concept. And they were like, other couples need this, you guys. Like, everybody's living together. Everybody already has everything they need for their kitchen and their dining room and their living room and bathroom. And like, why don't you just make a site where other couples can do this? And so that's how we started HoneyFund. And, you know, it's been 18 years and, you know, more than 1.2 million couples have used the site. We've processed almost $1 billion in gifting for them. And more, like, I would say it's become a mainstream thing to do, which is the thing I'm most proud of, because back in those days, you should have seen some of the not like forum discussions. Anytime anyone said anything about a honeymoon fund, I mean, the claws would come out and like, you can't ask for money. That's so tacky. You know, like it was just like a huge fight in the industry for like 10 years. And I feel like we finally cracked it. And not only that, we finally figured out how to make it completely free. So when you sign up for HoneyFund, you basically get a little HoneyFund wallet and you list all the fun things you're going to do on your trip. And your friends and family come and just pitch in. There's no fees, you know, and you take the money and make your dream honeymoon happen. And that's why we're here.
I love that so much. And you're so right about people don't necessarily need any more stuff for their kitchen. Like it is like so much more common, I think, than it used to be for people to be living together before they get married or whatever it might be. So I absolutely love this as an option, and it really is, yeah, it's great for all kinds of people. Could you give us a little bit more details on how HoneyFund works?
Yes, absolutely. So first and foremost, when you sign up, you kind of get to tell us like, you know, when is your wedding? Where are you going on your honeymoon? And if you don't know those things, it's fine. We have workarounds for ways around those questions, but it just helps us to get to know you a little bit. And then we actually, based on your destination, we can give you a whole set of suggested registry items. So we know from, you know, like I said, 1.2 million honey funds, what kinds of things are going to be perfect for your honey fund and that your friends and family are going to contribute to. And you can take out those or leave those. If you want to create all your own custom items, you can do that. We also have almost 200 gift card brands that you can register for. So if you know you're just going to use Airbnb, you can put an Airbnb gift card on your honey fund and give yourself that flexibility to go and book those stays a little bit later. And then all the money goes into, like I said, your HoneyFund wallet or your gift cards, and you are totally free to use that money however you want. So that's one thing a lot of couples get confused about, like, are you booking my trip for me, or am I just getting the cash to kind of do it on my own? And what we found is that our couples love having the flexibility of the cash, and they also love the process of booking their own honeymoon. It's like this fun little project they can do, you know, that kind of takes their mind off the stress of wedding planning and gets them into this sort of like daydreaming state of like, oh my God, we're going to actually be married and we're going to be on our honeymoon and it's going to be the beginning of the rest of our love-filled lives. And it's just such a fun process. So it's pretty simple. And like I said, no fees. We do have the option for couples to get money directly to their bank account if they prefer. Otherwise, they will withdraw the funds out of their wallet into a PayPal, Venmo, or to one of our 200 gift card partners. And the bank account option does come with a 3.5% fee, but otherwise it's totally free.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I love how you said that it can be a fun project that you can do with your future spouse, your fiance, as you're planning it. And I think that using something like HoneyFund, it doesn't make it a daunting task. So myself, like, I know that thinking about like doing a big travel, like I haven't traveled so much, especially internationally, like that sounds like a huge project for me. But with all of those suggestions that your site offers, that's really great for couples, and it can feel like a fun activity instead of something that's super overwhelming. Yeah, so I know that we touched on this a little bit, but there are many reasons why couples might want to opt for a crowdfunding gift option like this. So what would you say are the benefits of using HoneyFund for couples and for guests as well?
Yeah, I mean, for couples, I think it's like if you already have all the stuff or you're just not sure, you know, what you need, and some extra money can help you make that wedding or honeymoon budget work. I think it's an amazing idea. A lot of couples that will just come on and they won't even like really build out their honeymoon. They'll just have more of like a general contribution, and they'll just be like, hey, we're doing this for a home down payment, or we think we're going to take a honeymoon next year, but we're not sure, or hey, we could just really use some support starting out. And you know, it's you would be really surprised at how generous wedding guests are in like contributing to whatever it is the couple is putting out there. So yeah, so just don't be shy. That's the main thing I would say. Like, your friends and family love you. They want you to be successful. They want you to have the life that you want. And the more you can tell them about what that is, the more inspired they'll be to give. But even if you're just not sure, that's okay. Just, they love you.
I love that. Yeah, I love the flexibility of it too. I know you mentioned like other things besides honeymoon, down payments. Not sure what we're going to use the money for, but like just people are so happy to support your love story. So I love it.
Yes. Yeah, those are my favorite gifts to give, to know that you're giving towards the experience. So from a guest perspective, I always opt for that. And it's so fun to know.
That's great.
Last kind of section for you, we did want to ask some rapid fire questions, just I don't know, get to know more about you and more about HoneyFund as well. So I guess just more of a personal question. Would you opt for a beach getaway or a mountain retreat?
I've always gone with beach almost my entire life, but lately I've been the mountain retreat has been calling me, just like a little Zen time, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'd love to know, what's the hottest honeymoon trend that you're seeing right now?
This is tough. I would say couples really just doing it their own way. Like, yes, we've got plenty of couples that still go for the beach resort and the all-inclusive, but again, we have more and more couples looking for bigger trips, more cultural immersion, more exotic experiences. But regardless of which way you lean, like, doing it your own way is the trend.
Love that.
Love it. And then, is there a way that couples can incorporate their love of food into their honeymoon experience?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, travel, I think, is like 3/4 of the food that you get to taste and eat and all the fun, like, culinary experiences you have. One thing that I highly recommend, especially if you're going to a city like, say, Barcelona or Edinburgh or, Paris, book yourself into a food tour. You can get them on Viator, or sometimes like local travel agents will have really great inside info on local food tours. And it's just someone who knows the neighborhoods, knows the restaurants, knows the restaurant owners, knows the best things on the menu to take you around and, eat and drink with you. And it's so much fun, and you would not believe the experiences that you can have on a food tour.
Yeah, I'm going to need to sign myself up for one of those. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, you can do it in your local city too. Just go on Viator.
Okay, what are some tips for planning an action-packed honeymoon that won't leave couples like totally exhausted? Like, the wedding's already going to be exhausting enough. How do you do a bunch of stuff on your honeymoon but not end up like so worn out at the end?
That's a great question. I would say pick one or two really great things to do versus a lot of little things. So, for example, if you're going to Mexico, to the Yucatan Peninsula, and you want to go see like Chichen Itza or one of those ruins, like, book that, like, take one day out of your 5 days at the resort and go do something really fun and cool. And the rest of the time, just sit around and chill.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it.
Yeah.
I think quality over quantity is my point.
That's so funny that you mentioned that specific example, because I have friends who are doing that next week. So they're doing that exact trip next week, where they're like, okay, they're going all inclusive, but they are taking a day trip. And I was like, good, like, you have one bigger thing, but then otherwise you don't have to worry about anything. So I love that. And then you kind of touched on this earlier, so I'm interested to see other creative ways that people can use HoneyFund for experiences beyond a honeymoon.
Yeah, so we have so many great projects happening right now. So as I talked about, we're working on getting all of our honeymoon data out and kind of helping couples with more specific wedding planning that takes all their interest in stuff, honeymoon planning that takes all their interest into account. But beyond the honeymoon, we're actually also working on what we call Second Honey Fund, which is like, all right, we did this for our wedding. We got all these great honeymoon gifts. Our friends and family are totally bought in. They love HoneyFund. So now we're going to do, like, let's say a 5th anniversary trip or a 30th birthday trip or some other kind of, crowdfunding need, starting a business together, paying off student loans, whatever it is. We can help with that too. Friends and family want to continue to support you. And look, we all go to weddings and we sit in the pew and the minister says, you promise to support this couple. And we all say, yes, we do. But like, what do we actually ever do? Especially if they hit hard times or they just need to get away. And so we're working on making HoneyFund available to couples throughout their marriage.
Oh, I love that. I love the anniversary aspect. I love that a call out of like, yeah, we promised we'd support these people and we're going to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially like if your family and friends are used to seeing it now, like they've used it for your wedding, like, hey, we're familiar with this. It's so easy to use. So that's really great. Okay, I kind of have two questions wrapped up into one for you here. So firstly, do you prefer a small and intimate celebration or something that's kind of more big and over the top? And how can HoneyFund adapt to different celebration sizes?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I really think it comes down to what's right for the couple. I would always start small. I would start as small as you possibly can and then build from there versus starting big and then having to make cuts. So, we all know how excruciating it is to take that guest list and put down everyone you love and then have to cut people off of that list, right? So instead of taking that approach, start with, who could we never get married without their presence, right? And maybe that's 25 people or 50 people. And then if you really feel like, okay, yeah, we have the budget to go bigger than that, go for it. But we all know that the head count is the number one influencer of the wedding cost, right? So, make sure you start small and build from there. Every single dollar you save on your wedding can either go into your honeymoon or into building your lives together. And that, the sort of industry published averages of like $35,000 for a wedding. If you invested that much on day one of your marriage, you would have $1.5 million at retirement. So when you think about like how much money that is, not just today, but the future cost of that money, I think it really shifts your perspective and kind of gives you an opportunity to like start small and, if you want to go big, go for it. If that's who you are, if you have the money to do it, like no shame whatsoever. But I just feel like these days most couples don't have that option. And so you have to get smart and you have to get ruthless about making trade-offs and prioritizing your finances. And that skill will only serve you throughout your entire marriage. So you might as well practice it, in the beginning.
I love that you mentioned that. Unfortunately, I got married over COVID. I talk about that on the podcast. Mm-hmm. Everyone who's listening to this is probably sick of hearing it. But we just, in the natural course of things that happened, like didn't end up spending the money we had set aside for our wedding, which was a huge blessing in disguise because we were able to buy a house much more quickly.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so, if I would have had to go back and do it again, I would have planned it with 25 people and done it that way all over again. I loved it. It was awesome. So
awesome.
Yeah, everything you said there, I'm like, yes, absolutely. So how can couples who maybe haven't planned their honeymoon yet still utilize HoneyFund?
I love this question because we've really thought of all these details for you. All you have to do is sign up. We'll build you a generic HoneyFund if you don't know where you're going, if you don't have any of your details worked out. Even if you don't know your destination, it's totally fine. There's very common things that couples need on their HoneyFund regardless of their destination. Things like hotels, airfare, excursions. And your friends and family are going to love gifting to that even if you don't have the details worked out. The other thing is that as you plan and as you figure it out, you can continually update your HoneyFund. So, it's fun for wedding guests. They can actually follow your page and get updates. And, if you add some new details to your honeymoon, and they can come on and see, oh, they figured out they're going on this thing, or I told them to go to this restaurant and they put it on there, that could be a lot of fun. So it can unfold with you.
I love that.
That is super fun. I love just like checking that stuff. And like I've seen people where they have like specific excursions and stuff and you're like, ooh, I'd like to do that. So I'll contribute to that. So
yes.
Really fun. So on the subject of honeymoon mishaps, not to like bring things down, but what are some common hiccups that you've seen couples face on their honeymoon and how can they be prepared for those?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing that's really gonna, cause some pain is a last minute flight change or a delay or a canceled flight, right? And then lost luggage kind of goes in that category too. So what I always tell couples to do is pack some essentials in your carry-on. Make sure you have like a robust carry-on that's going to have, clean undies, toothbrush, something easy to wear for a couple of days if your luggage is lost, or if you're delayed and you're like, oh, I've checked my bag, but I'm living in this airport for the next 24 hours, right? So that's like totally the best thing you can do. I've learned it the hard way over the years, and you might as well just go in prepared. I think if you know, like, hey, anytime people travel, unexpected things are going to happen, we're prepared to deal with that. This is our honeymoon, we're together, we're in love, we're married, nothing can ever like screw this up. That's the right attitude.
And then one thing that you had mentioned earlier that I want to come back and touch on is just honeymoon registry etiquette. We mentioned that maybe back in the day there wasn't a lot, like a framework really around it.
Right.
So it's I think it's a much more solidified now, but I guess still in that realm. How can couples politely encourage guests to contribute to their honey fund if they maybe aren't acquainted with the idea?
Yeah, I would say, if the travel is the most important thing to you when it comes to your wedding registry, then make sure that your honey fund is built out as it can be and has all those fun things that you're going to do on your trip to just, again, get guests who may not be familiar with the concept to understand it a little bit better, and start to get excited about it. And then if you have store registries, you can link those to your honey fund page. Some friends and family just aren't going to get it, and they're going to prefer a more traditional gift, which is great. They can link off to those registries. We make it easy for them to link directly to your registry on those sites. But really making sure that your wedding party knows what a honey fund is, that they're excited to spread the word for you. You would be surprised how much word of mouth comes to play when it comes to wedding gifts and wedding guests kind of talking to each other about, what are you getting them, how which registry do they have. So make sure your closest friends and family in your wedding party have all that information and are ready to talk about it and sell it for you. I mean, that's, oh hey, what they really want is this amazing trip to Italy. Here's their honey fund page. Like, let me know if you have any questions about how it works. Like, those are the kind of people you need to kind of help you spread the word.
Yeah, that's an amazing tip. Definitely.
And we have one last rapid fire question for you. So
Let's go.
Looking back, what is one piece of honeymoon advice that you wish that every couple knew?
Oh boy, I would say don't be shy to ask for the time off work for your honeymoon. I know a lot of couples feel like they need some time off to kind of lead up to the wedding, just to get the last minute details straight, and they're not sure, like, how much time can I take for my honeymoon too. I mean, if you're getting married and taking a honeymoon, asking for 3 weeks off is totally fine. And any workplace, this is like your one freebie when it comes to like getting time off, right? Like, what boss is going to be like, no, you can't take time off for your wedding and honeymoon? You know what I mean? Like, it's just a freebie, so don't be shy about asking for it. And, a lot of couples are delaying the honeymoon for reasons related to work, time off. And it's just, I think does not hurt to ask. And if the answer is no, then you can work around it. But like I said, what boss is going to say no to that?
That's really great advice. I know that just people having worked maybe not ideal situations with like management and stuff, I know there's so much hesitation around fear around asking for time off, but you're so right. Ask. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, this has been so much fun, Sarah, and thank you so much for being here with us. This is great advice, and I love what you've done in this space and like kind of helping to destigmatize, I guess, the idea of like giving cash. It can be so helpful, and I love, like, we're so excited to see what you're going to continue to do with Honey Fund. I love the idea of being able to contribute to people's lives and what's going on in their lives in the future beyond just their wedding. So yeah, we're going to be following along just as we have been, and we're so excited to see what you continue to do with it.
Yes, yeah. Don't be surprised. My 5-year anniversary is coming up next year, and I'm going to have to get some food tours on that. I'm going to find something to do. So I'm excited to dive in. And all of these projects you're talking about that you're teasing, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to find out what all Honey Fund will be doing here in the future. So thank you so much again for being on The Guide Gals. But we want to make sure our listeners know where to find you or more information about Honey Fund. So tell us where we can keep up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely follow us on Instagram. We're actually right now celebrating National Honeymoon Day, which is a holiday that we invented to bring awareness to the fact that couples who travel together stay together. It's August 14th, and we're running a giveaway where couples can enter to win a 5-night all-inclusive in Mexico, courtesy of HoneyFund.
So fun.
So make sure we do giveaways like that all year round. Make sure you go to Instagram /HoneyFund. And then, of course, honeyfund.com. You can download our app in the app stores if you need to set up your own honey fund. And again, whatever it is that you all need to support you in starting out, whether that's a honeymoon, help with the wedding, paying off debt, whatever it is, your friends and family love you, and they are so ready to step up and contribute. So get your honey fund started today.
Yay.
Yes, everybody should absolutely go follow along HoneyFund, enter in their giveaways. That sounds incredible. So take advantage of that and take advantage of using HoneyFund for your own wedding. We will have all of that linked in our show notes so you guys can easily find it. But of course, I have to tell you guys where you can find us too. So as always, we love to chat with you guys. So if you have any other questions regarding HoneyFund, honeymoons, or just wedding planning, you can find us on theguidegalspodcast.com and you can reach out to us there. You can also find us on Instagram at the Guide Gals Podcast, on TikTok at the Guide Gals Pod, and we are on the Here Comes the Guide YouTube channel as well. So Sara, thank you again so much for being with us today. We're so happy to have you on the podcast, and we're so happy to learn more about HoneyFund and share it with all of our listeners.
Thank you so much, ladies. I had such a fun time, and again, huge fan of Here Comes the Guide, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Well, that's all for our episode today. So until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.